Hey, Beyond Me. It was so great to be with you all last week. Thanks for those of you who came out and opened your hearts to what God had to say. Um, it was so encouraging to be with you, and it was a great evening of worship. Misty contacted me and asked if I would share a little bit about what I spoke about last week. Some of you missed, and I'm sorry that I didn't get to see a lot of you there. So I just wanted to share real quick a couple of things that I spoke about last week. First of all, I just want to say I'm not an expert on this by any means. We spoke about racial reconciliation and what it means to be a white person. So I am a white person, so I guess I'm a little bit of an expert on being white. But just understanding what it means to have white culture. And I just finished a book study with some other women and just really kind of dug into what it means to be white and how that culture affects everything. And one of the books, I don't know if you can see this, it's called Wide Awake by Daniel Hill. It was great. Some of the things that he talked about, I also wove into this. Talked about our adoption process. We are a transracial family. I don't know, I didn't even plan this, but you can see this is Madden, and this is Leela with my husband Matt, and of course that's me. So we have two African-American children, and my husband and I are white. So we've had to face some things concerning race that we actually weren't totally prepared for when we started the adoption process. I think we were just uneducated on what it meant. We just knew that we were going to love our kids no matter what they looked like, and that's very true. But there's a lot of racial implications when it comes to being African American. We have different conversations with our kids than my parents had with myself and my brother. So a lot of those boil down to understanding what it means to be white and what our white culture is. And a lot of times we don't even realize that we have culture as white people because every other culture is compared to ours, and white culture is seen as the normal or the norm. And so everything else is compared to what is quote unquote white normalcy. So everything like hair, music, clothes, names, anything like that is compared to white culture. I think we all go through a process in understanding race. I'm trying to give you guys the shortened version, and so you're not going to watch a 30-minute video. First, I think we have to encounter race, and that just means basically the first time you realize that there is race. And I want to say I was about 8 or 9 years old when that happened. Then sometimes we get disoriented, and that goes back to Mark 8, where the blind man asked Jesus to heal his sight, and Jesus takes him out of the city and spits in his eyes. And at first he can see somewhat, but he thinks people are trees walking around. And so it's that when we first kind of see things are blurry. That's disorientation. And this is when we need to grow and deepen in our theology and know what we believe and why we believe those things, and really dig into God's word so that we can see clearly. And Jesus did completely heal the man's sight. The next phase, I think, is shame. Once we can kind of see clearly, we feel a lot of shame. Not just, I have done very, very racist things. I continue to do racist things. I'm on a journey of learning, and so hopefully those lessen over time. I'm aware that just my views and how I was raised and just being white makes me a racist, because I compare everything to what I know and what I feel like is normal. And I think when we can kind of own that, we feel shame in that. And I think God doesn't want us to wallow in that shame. He wants us to feel it, because that's when we know we're convicted and we feel sin. But he wants us to move from shame to lament. And I had to actually look up what lament meant. And it meant to grieve. It means to grieve or mourn or be sorrowful. And I really love this. Lamentations serves as an outpouring of grief for a loss that has already occurred with no expectation of reversing that loss. So we have to understand that we can't fix it. We can't fix what has happened. And so lamenting is just mourning that, and grieving that, and coming alongside our brothers and sisters of color, and just knowing that things are hard and ugly. Because in 1 Corinthians 12:26 and in Romans 12:15, it says things like, if one part of the body suffers, every part suffers. And we need to rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. It's like sitting in the ashes in sackcloth. That's what I consider lamenting. And then kind of once we've lamented, there comes an awakening, and that's when more outward work begins instead of just inward. There's still a lot of inward work going on even when we're awakened. We still need to be continuing to dig into God's word and to know what we believe. This is also hopefully when we recognize that this is a kingdom battle. It's not just an American battle. It's not just a white person battle. It's a kingdom battle. And I think when we really finally see that this is about Christ and all people were made in his image, then we really get what it means to love him and to be awakened to this. And so what I would encourage you to do is to live in a state of hopeful lament. And I think what that just means is being okay with being sad and mourning what has happened or what is currently happening, knowing we can't fix it, but believing that God is at work and that he is going to do something. And so again, I think that's a really important thing, is just that hopeful lament. I would also encourage you to continue to educate yourself, listen to people of color. Even if you totally disagree with them, hear them out. It's important to hear different viewpoints. But if you take away anything from this, I would just say to practice hopeful lament, because that's when we're really going to see God make changes in our hearts and in the world around us. Thanks Beyond Me. It's been such a blessing to be a part of your community, and I hope to be able to get to do that again soon. Have a great week.